Well, here's a really, really fascinating rifle, at least for me, courtesy of Nick at Reliable and Beretta. They sent over this unbelievable straight pull rifle, and you know, I'm not always right up to date with everything, but Veracity PH Burris 4-20 by 50 millimeter scope. So you can see here BRX1 rifle, and we'll go through some of the features just because I like straight pull rifles. We reviewed quite a few, especially earlier on in the channel's history. This one varies, and I mean, this thing, I just can't stop reading about it, but I guess I should focus on the rifle. So yeah, it is, I mean, this is a seriously well thought out rifle. It may vaguely remind you of Blaser R93 or maybe R8. It's actually quite different, but of course it has the straight pull mechanism. It's very slick. It doesn't have that collet locking. People call the locking system on the R8 and R93 different things, but a technical fellow said it's a collet, so I just repeat that. This is more of a turn bolt. In some ways, it reminds me of the Mauser straight pull. I think it was the model 96. It has multiple locking lugs, and whatever they've done with the engineering inside the bolt, this is, as I said, very smooth, very slick. You don't feel the action working, meaning the bolt head turning at all. There's sometimes resistance, but whatever they've done with cams, they solved that perfectly. And of course, equipped with this remarkable scope, which does everything. I think you probably can deal with just about any distance. The caliber of this rifle is .308. A couple other things. I mean, this one came in this incredible case. I'm assuming they all do. It's nice. It's kind of a super heavy. It's like a Pelican case. Probably there are others like Pelicans. And then these magazines, it's a good idea in case you drop it, you know, in the swamp or in the snow. You'll probably find it. And we've got some oil in here. The foam is high quality, and the whole rig, you just carry this to your favorite hunting spot, and you probably be able to handle anything. And aside from all that, you know, most of the time we do, well, a lot of people do more shooting than hunting. This would be a great one to do some shooting, like target shooting with that long range with 4-20. And it seems to have, I didn't read it carefully, but it seems to have like a range finding system in a heads-up display inside the scope, so you can't see that, but I could see that. Anyhow, we'll take a few shots. In terms of handling, I'll just stand up for this part. It's well, you know, it's hard to get the stock wrong because there are just so many that have been made. This is ideal. Let's see how it works with the straight pull. So, yeah, I mean, it comes back, but you've got to lift your face for most bolt actions. That's just the way it is. Everything else looks pretty straightforward. I don't want to take the rifle apart up here in the mountains, threaded like people like them these days. It's got a Picatinny rail, and the scope, I mean, the scope kind of suits this. And you know, I'm aiming across probably 5 miles must be to that peak. And this scope is remarkable. And that's set on 4 power. I cranked it up a moment ago. And you know, there are heat waves. It's hot up here today. Yeah, that's something else. Remarkable piece of machinery, beautifully made. And people always ask me, so made in Italy, Beretta, USA Corporation, .308 Winchester. It doesn't say the rate of twist, which a lot of people ask me. So I guess I would have to ask Beretta. The stock doesn't feel cheap at all, and it doesn't feel, you know, like a hollow plastic barrel. It's definitely a quality rig. And to take it apart, yeah, I can see what would be done. All right, well, we'll take a few shots, and I'm quite sure it's going to be, you know, less than a minute of angle if I do my part. And I won't bother, you know, going into these turrets just because there's so much happening now. And you're hearing from a man who usually hunts with a 4-power scope with no adjustments except for windage and elevation. So it's amazing to me that this is all here, and that I guess most people know how to get this all to work, which I'm sure I could too. Anyway, we'll take a few shots. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like a Ferrari on a go-kart track here. This is a really high-tech rig, and I think we could have that plate at 500 yards. I'd have to crank up the magnification, but it'd probably be hitting about the same if I did my part. Probably need a rest. Anyway, every shot is a hit, and with this Beretta scope, this interests me. I'd have to, you know, learn more about it. But even these magazines, the whole machine is so well thought out, and definitely the rotating bolt is always a reassuring feature. People understand rotating bolts. The other systems are excellent, and some people say stronger, but perception is an important thing, and people perceive these as reliable. I mean, it's basically a Garand, except this has many locking lugs, and of course not a semi-automatic, but you get the idea. In this case, the straight pull is doing what the gas operation would otherwise do. Great rifle. We'll probably take a look at it more in the studio, but I wanted you to see it shoot. We'll fire a few more rounds. I've got another magazine. I put 5 rounds in here, and I noticed that we destroyed the target, so it's just hanging by a thread. We'll see what happens. Well, it's very easy to like a rifle like this just because it performs so well. Hitting is not quite, you know, thought-free, but the rifle does so much, and the scope as well. I think, you know, compared to the R8 and the R93, it's going to be very popular, I think, with shooters. This action, this has a lot going for it, and of course I should have said you can decock it so that it can't fire. It's completely immobilized, but you can empty it, which is a good feature. And there's probably a half-cock mechanism in here where I can do both, lock it and keep it on safe. I'll have to study that some more. So yeah, this is great. Thank you very much, Nick and Beretta, and we'll look forward to shooting it again. I wouldn't mind, you know, having some targets at long range, because really, like I said, it's designed for a different type of shooting than we typically do up here on the mountain. All right, well, thanks for watching, and maybe have a look at one of these Berettas, something else. Take care.